Big ball, I call me Benzema. Goal pa me neck, give me eczema. Yo, what the scene? Welcome back to Global Sports from a Caribbean perspective. It's your boy Prime there with my boy Shaba and my boy
Dubs.
and we come to talk about the best takes, the best leagues, the best sports, the best players right here on GSCP. Welcome back to the channel, and remember, as always, remember to like, comment, share, subscribe to the thing. Let's get this thing moving. Let's get this thing jumping. If you like us, you're a sports fan, you grew up watching sports, loving sports, and you want to talk about it. So let's have a conversation about global sports from a Caribbean perspective. Man, things have been going great in European football. Thank God, no more international breaks till the ending of the year. We could just watch some nice games and, see the season really starting to shape up in and amongst the teams. But before we get into some of the action from, we had some weekend games and some midweek games recently, we want to talk about this day in history. And I know this day in history, the ones that I have for today particularly, I know that people going to love them. I know I could bet for a fact that people going to love the facts from this day in history. And it was so good, I couldn't pick one. So I had to bring to you two facts from this day in history. Remember, this day in history is always the date of recording. And today is December the 4th in the year of our Lord 2025. We give God thanks for life, thanks and praise, We're moving on. But in 1977, on December the 4th, a certain team won the first ever World Series cricket test match against Australia in Melbourne by 3 wickets. Big up the West Indies. Yeah, man, they was chasing about 235 runs to win. Master Blaster. You don't know, Viv Richards coming in with a clutch 56 runs. Clive Lloyd. Serve Vivian Richards coming in clutch. And Sir Clive Lloyd with a solid 44 guiding West Indies to 237 for 7 with 2 days to spare, winning the first ever World Test cricket series this day in history. And as I said, I know Dappy as the biggest cricket fan that we have, the biggest cricket pundit that we have on GSCP would love that particular tidbit. Big up Sir Viv, big up Sir Clyde, big up the West Indies. We hope to reach those heights again very, very soon.
Yeah, man, that's why I always hear the older folks talking about Sir Viv and the good old days, because we were superior to the superior
all the top rankings.
So yeah, that's of course it will put a smile on
yeah, that's a nice one, right? But like I said, I couldn't pick just that one alone for the significance of the second thing that happened on this day. So this seems to be a decent day in sports history. On December the 14th, 2007, a certain Brazilian midfielder from a team in the Serie A, AC Milan, was named as the best football player in the world. That was Kaká. And I thought this was significant because 2007 was actually the first year in which all players from all clubs were eligible to win the Ballon d'Or. Let me get a little bit more history about the Ballon d'Or. From between 1956 to 1994, the award was strictly European players. So you had to be a part of the UEFA Federation in order to be considered nominated and win the Ballon d'Or. Then from 95 to 2006, they expanded to include players of any nationality, but you still had to play in Europe. And then since 2007, any player, any club, so the Ballon d'Or is truly that symbol of, global excellence in soccer. And we know we have a lot of heated debates about the Ballon d'Or. No, but it just goes to show you that, these individual awards, they have a certain particular history to them. Even they themselves have had to grow and change and become more inclusive in and of themselves. So it gives perspective as to, that award. So big up Kaká, one of them, OGs when I coming up as a youth man watching football, one of the first people to dazzle me with a ball. So salute to you. You don't know. And that was this day in history. We want to get into some weekly news roundup, and I want to switch it up and start in Spain. We talk a lot about the Premier League, and we'll say the Premier League for a little bit later in the show today. We want to talk about the action in Spain. Match day 14 was on the weekend, and we had some interesting results across the top three. Barcelona pulling out a win versus Alaves 3-1. Atletico pulling out a win as well. Both teams played at home against Oviedo. They won that game 2-0. But Madrid continuing, then at least, a poor run of form in La Liga. That was their third consecutive draw against Girona away. Played Rayo, was a draw. Elche was a draw. And Girona. So that means things have shifted quite a bit in the last couple of match days in La Liga. Barcelona now topping La Liga. So I want to get into it in those three games. I'll start with the Atletico game versus Oviedo. Atleti is doing some quiet but decent work this season. It was a brace from Salah. Both first half goals, actually. And it's very similar to what they've been doing this season. They tend to score the first goal in games a lot. Both was plays, balls coming in from the left flank, Salah with, typical number 9 finishes, putting it away, no questions asked. I think they were 2-0 up before the 30th minute. And, they continue to just see the game out. But it was just a reminder of those situations. I mean, it's Atleti, one of the most stacked teams in La Liga, as we said, and yet still, that killer instinct to really go all out for blood and yes, they say saw the game clean sheet, no questions asked. But to really see that attacking side really come out and really go for more, you don't really see that from them. Well, at least not in all of the games. We saw that maybe once this season so far.
Just leading on from what you said about them taking the lead, they actually became the first team in La Liga history to score first in each of their first 14 La Liga games of the season. They then scored again in another game, first
Yeah,
in another game, which we'll get to. So
yeah, we'll get to that.
that's a record that they've extended so far. So credit to them. That's an impressive streak as well.
Very.
14 games to start the season scoring first,
Setting the pace.
right? So some would have expected Barca or Madrid to have a big record with that, but Diego Simeone's Atletico now has that record. That was their sixth consecutive win at the time. After they lost against Arsenal in the Champions League, but it was just a comfortable win because Oviedo, they wouldn't present much of a challenge.
Yeah,
Atletico usually slaughter with those teams who come to the Wanda and play. And it was just another simple professional performance from
solid performance.
Simeone.
Yeah, like I said, some typical number 9 goals from the big man up top there, Salah.
Just before we move off of Atletico, that was Diego Simeone's 333rd win in La Liga, which carries him joint second on the all-time list in Spain with Miguel Munoz, and he's now only behind Luis Aragonés on 344. So if he stays, I think he would pass that record. Maybe even this
before
season.
the season as
Yeah,
well.
this season.
That's why they
it's
keeping
about
him.
20.
That's why they keeping him happy. They want break there.
Right, so that's
They can't change him yet.
Yeah,
very, very
They
impressive.
can't change him yet. 3-3-3 or something like a good. But in like numbers.
that's impressive.
Elsewhere in the other fixture, Barcelona defeated Alaves 3-1, and the scoreline is what it is, but I can tell you yet another early goal conceded. First minute of the game, we were already down 1. First minute of the game. And it was another one of the defensive problems that Barcelona have rearing its ugly head, you have to say. And that is set pieces. We do not defend set pieces well, and it's some of the same problems that you have with the high line. I think it's the same problem. No pressure on the ball and poor marking. You understand? No real response to the players in the box at the time. It's a corner. You know the ball is coming in. Why are you not prepared to defend in a situation like that? I could understand being caught off guard. You're on the halfway line and you lose concentration, and somebody pings a ball in behind and you have to know chase 40 yards or so. But come on, we are facing the person on the corner. Flag taking the kick. The ball is coming in. You would think that the players are ready. But outside of that, we went on to kick on, and that is largely because of Rafinha, in my opinion. Now, Lamine was the one to equalize, but it was because of Rafinha's good work, great passing, and so on. In the game, Alves went on to break the high line again several times, I think, before the half was over. Joan Garcia had to pull out a double save. But it was good that immediately after that almost scored. We got 2-1. And guess who was given the assist again? Just guess. Of course, Rafinha again. Great work down the left hand side again. Another great assist showing that kind of leadership. Um, that sort of metal. He really gives the team something different, something extra. Lamine had another great chance to score before halftime, smacked it against the post. So we could say right now, Barcelona chance creation definitely increasing. That is good news considering the team can't seem to stop conceding, but at least we keep scoring. It was a good performance by Almo. He had a great chance to score the second goal in the second half. Put it just wide, but he ended up bagging a brace in the end, securing all 3 points with a 90th minute goal. Job done, 3 points. Not a lot of complaints, but some of the same problems are still pretty evident for Barcelona and against tougher opposition. And we have seen that those things are exposed.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. But this is the trade that Hansi Flick has. This is the bet that Hansi Flick has made, right? And what's impressive to me is Barca's overwhelming ability to overwhelm teams, basically. Doesn't really matter the opposition unless they come up against high, top quality tier
Strong.
European opposition. Are going to overwhelm the majority of teams in Spain. That's now 4 straight wins since losing El Clasico in La Liga and 14 goals in the process, right? 34 La Liga games in a row scoring, right? So that's crazy. They are always gonna be a threat. They're always gonna score at least 2 goals. So any team that comes up against them in Spain is gonna have their work on their hands.
Mm-hmm. Gonna have a better work to do. But like I said, the oh boy, that defense,
Hmm.
that defense, man. Uh, anyhow, elsewhere, we saw Madrid dropping points, and that's really why Barcelona have found themselves back at the top of La Liga without necessarily having a great start to the season or playing particularly well or playing particularly impressive. Away at Girona, that's the third consecutive draw, 1-1. Azadine, I believe is the first name, scored the first goal the first and only goal for Girona. I watched the first half and bits and pieces of the second half. So I saw the goal, smooth flowing team goal it was in the end. The Mbappe goal was a penalty, another penalty, but another goal. And even penalties aside, he looks really sharp, he looks deadly. Team around him, it has to be said, is quite inconsistent. Though I remember us talking just before. He said Rodrigo has now gone, 31 games without a goal. I mean, Mbappe can't stop scoring, but clearly the supporting cast, so to speak, not to call Vinny Jr. in any way, he's a great player, is his own right, but the supporting cast is looking inconsistent.
Yeah, not just Vinny Jr. Adagule. They've all been inconsistent. It's really been all on Kylian Mbappe's shoulder. We I think it's now on the onus is now on Xabi Alonso to really try to find the perfect formula or the best way forward, because I don't think this is sustainable. There are going to be games, and Shaba pointed out even earlier in the season where Mbappe would basically go missing in bigger games. And we would need the likes of the Judes, the Rodrigos, to pitch in and, just give us that creative spark or be a little bit more prolific, a bit more decisive. I think that has been lacking. And also the defense seem solid really early in the season, and now we concede all types of goals. And I just think that it's on Xabi Alonso to just fix it, really.
3 consecutive draws, and it was also 3 consecutive games where we hardly threatened. Keep in mind, Girona are currently 18th in La Liga and have conceded 25 goals so far in the season so far. And they are one of the 3 worst defenses in Spain, right? And we barely threatened, barely troubled their keeper. And it was another uninspiring performance, whereas I just explained that Barca have this overwhelming ability to overwhelm you. This ability to overwhelm the opposition is the opposite for us, right? We barely threaten players, so slow. Ball circulates very predictably, and it's always ending up on Mbappe's foot or Vinicius's foot, and it's very predictable, very easy to defend. No variety in attack. Is the same complaints that I've had all season about the midfield not being technically sound enough to break down low blocks. Because teams like Girona and Elche and the likes who we drop points against so far, those are the kind of teams that we're gonna come up more times than teams who are gonna open up against us. So it's another poor showing, right? I'm losing faith by the game in the midfield whenever I see Chouameni and Valverde out there, despite the great strengths they have, their weaknesses are so glaring. And Pedri, who just returned for Barcelona in the week, right? You could just see the kind of influence that he has in the midfield, the way he manipulates the ball and gets his team ticking along. We don't have a player like that, right? Now, we'll get to the Athletic Club game where Jude Bellingham played a bit deep and Aragule was on the bench, right? Might have found something with that. But just in terms of the game against Girona, it was very poor, right? And I have a hard take that it's not necessarily hot either, I don't think, because the take that I have is none of the current team that we have right now. Nobody from this current team, maybe aside from Courtois, would get into any of the Champions League winning teams from the late 2010s with Casemiro and Cruz and Modric and the likes of Carvajal and Pepe and Sergio Ramos and the BBC up front. None of the current team, including Mbappe, would get into any of those teams because Mbappe, despite being a prolific scorer, he can't do the role that Benzema had to facilitate Bale and Ronaldo at the time. So that just goes to show we have a good team on paper, a lot of world class names, but they're showing to be a lot of overrated players at the moment because we're going through a tough patch and they can't seem to help Xabi Alonso out of the mess, Mbappe aside. Right, Trent is playing well since he's back from injury, but he's also out again now. Right? So Trent is a plus, Militao is a big plus as well. Right? And Courtois, obviously. But aside from that, we have a lot to work to do.
Well, yeah, that's great analysis, and that's a lot of the things that you've been saying for the season so far. I'll see if in the other fixtures that we're about to talk about, if you see any silver lining. So that was actually match day, I think that's 14 that we just discussed, right? Match day 14 in La Liga that was played on the weekend. However, in the midweek, we had some fixtures, not a lot, just 2 fixtures, and that is actually match day 19. Reason being, those matches would have been scheduled for January, but Barcelona, Atletico, Real Madrid are all going to be involved in the Spanish Super Cup in Saudi Arabia at that time. So those matches have been brought forward. As a result, in the midweek, we've just seen Barcelona versus Atletico Madrid and Athletic Club versus Real Madrid. The top 2 in Spain, both managing to score 3 goals apiece in those games. Barca winning 3-1 at home versus Atleti, and Real Madrid defeating Athletic Club 3-0, but away. Let me start with the Barca game, and I'll give some hits from that game. Atletico scored first, naturally, as they've done for most of the season. As we said, they had that record. Baena, early goal.
Call offside and then
Call offside. Kubasi waving for that offside. It came, but it was ruled as a goal by VAR. The highline breached yet again. But as Shab was saying, this is the bet that we've made. I must admit the response this time around was better from Barcelona. Not a lot of heads down. I feel like we've gotten used to conceding that goal, and we know that that concession is coming at least. So the attitude of the players was just to kind of move on from that, and that's good. If that's as a result of coaching from Hansi, or that's just them recognizing what the situation is, whatever it is, that's good. It's that man Rafinha again leading that comeback. Great run, but
the ball from
Pedri, boy. we cannot replace
And
Pedri.
the thing is, Rafinha made the run for us.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay. And then he come back. I shocked again to see he make the same run and Pedri find him the next time after just.
Asio.
That's what we're missing.
Asio, you walk in.
That's what we're missing for real.
Pedri see him and he's like, wait, no, that's a good idea. Do that again. Let me see.
Yeah,
And the ball came, Barca for ball, splitting the defense with that pass. Back, good to have you back, Pedrito. Good to have you back and boss and things. After that, we went on to kick on in the game, created a lot of chances. At a point, it looked like Atletico was a bit overwhelmed, particularly in the midfield, which is credit to the midfield that, Pedri is back and surprise, we're dominating midfield. Almo with a great goal, but story of Dani Almo at Barcelona.
Injured in the process.
Brace last game. I think he had an assist goal in the game before that. Goal in this game, but as literally as the ball touching the net, he already grimacing in pain because he fell awkwardly on his shoulder. And he's now injured. I think they said he has a dislocation. But the worry was he had a surgery on that shoulder sometime before in his career, I think at Leipzig. So, a lot of worries and concern there, but he does seem to be quite an injury prone. Now, at least accident prone player. But great goal. I could understand having to fall awkwardly because he positioned himself in a real weird way. It was a kind of a bumble between him and Lewandowski to get the ball, but good finish. Ferran won the game at the end, I guess. No disrespect to him because Salah was on and Atleti were piling on the pressure. So the game, in terms of the game state, looked like it had changed. But when I say winning it at the end, it was a very strange celebration from Ferran Torres for me as a Barcelona fan, right? Because we playing home. So who you shushing? You telling the camp now, shush?
Subliminal, I guess.
I want to know who you're talking to, big man, and say it with your chest because you can't vex if we criticize you for missing a sitter against Chelsea. You cannot vex. This are some of the things that people say why you can't be the out and out replacement for Robert Lewandowski because clutch moments, number 9 moments, those things matter in football. And I don't support piling on any one player. We've saw what has happened with Ronald Araujo recently, even having to take some time away as a result of things, either on or off the field. We don't know. We can only speculate, but we wish the best to him. But at the end of the day, this is what it's like playing at a high stakes club. You gotta know. So, the shushing of the home fans, if we had a rated or hated today, I definitely would have hate that one. But credit to the team, credit to Hansi Flick especially. Because you proved me wrong. I thought that he was a stubborn coach who wouldn't change his ways, but it showed. Learning, we understanding, and we show willingness to protect the lead this time rather than just stick to our guns blazing. Who knows how much a tempered approach like that would have worked like last season versus a team like Inter in the Champions League semi-finals. So it's good to see we have another gear that we can get into and we're not afraid of substituting some attackers and bringing on some defenders and trying to shut up shop, and really secure it. Atletico, like we said, is a team that scored for us and has been leading a lot again. So they haven't been accustomed to being put in this position where they need to score, they need to tap into their attacking threats. They brought on Salah, they brought on other players, but it just didn't work. So, kudos, top of the league. I gotta take that. The other fixture, unless any stats on the Barcelona game?
No, really. Just a quick bit on it that I was really impressed. It was a well-deserved win for sure. Barca were electric after going behind. Pedri and Rafinha's return obviously influenced the team and showed that they were missing in the games that they were like they could score. And the game against Chelsea, they injected the team with quality and bite. So our plus clinical finish from Olmo as well, like you mentioned, shows that Barca have goals, not just we only have one player scoring. Barca have goals spread around the team. That's their 5th comeback win in La Liga for the season so far, 5th win in a row since losing the Clasico, 17 goals in the process. 42 goals on the season, no other team has 30. So goals galore.
It's just a defense. Athletic Club 0-3 Real Madrid, put in 3 past Ernesto Valverde's men. And it was interesting to see him in that old familiar stupid position on the touchline. Reminded me of the Barcelona days. Mbappe scoring in the first half. Trent Alexander-Arnold with his first Real Madrid assist. I know a lot of people would have been looking forward to that type of connection.
It was really an assist.
Well,
I mean, the ball itself was a nice ball, but it's crazy that these things you call assists. I mean,
Statsman.
Yeah.
The Statsman counted. That man like the pass.
Nice pass.
The man counted based on the strength
Mbappe
of the
had
pass.
to do. I mean, if in basketball we know there's no assist, as the amount of work Mbappe had to do afterward.
I watched this game. Madrid looks lively. Camavinga and Chouameni together, I thought, had a better game in the midfield than some of the previous showings, with the farmer relieving the pressure just ahead of halftime, which was a key moment, in my opinion, to score in the game, given that, they didn't pose much of a threat, in my opinion, but that was, if any time in the game when it looked likely that Athletic Club could have maybe possibly tried to go and score, it would have been just before halftime. Mbappe completed the brace in the second half. It actually looked like the hat-trick was on because, like I said, looks lively, looks deadly. But Xabi Alonso, taking him off, getting him some rest. Better showing this time around.
Yeah. That was probably our best performance of the season, I'd say. I think Xabi Alonso may have stumbled upon a lineup that works. It was an unexpected win as well in hostile territory, a place where we have mixed results over the past few years and coming off 3 consecutive draws, like we just mentioned, right? Just on Mbappe, that's his 16 goals in 15 La Liga games, 25 goals in 20 in all competitions. He's leading scoring in the top 5 leagues. He also has 55 goals in the year of 2025 and is only a few goals away from CR7's record, 59, and would be the leading goal scorer of all time. 69, sorry, would be the leading goal scorer of all time in a year for Real Madrid, which is a significant stat for him, right? And there are 4 games to go, so
Yes,
one would bet that he could get there. But just on the game, like I said, it was our best performance of the season. I love the midfield, especially now that Gula is on the bench and Bellingham could establish his role as the 10. As you mentioned as well, Camavinga and Chouameni together look wonderful. Camavinga scoring a goal as well, and players getting into the box now. Another great game from Trent. So sad that he had to get injured, but another great game from him, and I'd say is only positives that we could take from this game. We did suffer at times with Courtois having to bail us out on a few occasions, but best performance for the season so far. I have no complaints aside from Rodrigo not scoring again. He now has the record for going on the longest goal drought in Real Madrid history for an attacker with 31 goals, bro. That's
crazy.
That's crazy, bro. Right? But we still know Rodrigo's talent and pedigree. That doesn't make him any less of a player. Still has a big role in this team, right? But we need more goals from other players in the squad aside from the number 10. And we need to continue keeping clean sheets. It was a good sign to keep a clean sheet against a tough opponent. We now have Celta, Man City, Alaves, and Sevilla upcoming aside from City. That's a somewhat comfortable schedule that we should hopefully close out the year well with, and then we come back for the Super Cup in the new year. So that win would ease some of the pressure off of Xabi Alonso for the time being, but we have to maintain the momentum on the weekend and obviously against City next week.
Yeah, some interesting matches coming up to really try and build that momentum. I don't want to stir the pot too much, but I have a hot take. How come Rodrigo getting away with something Gareth Bale would never get away with at Real Madrid?
Only because because he black.
You understand? How come? How come? No, for real. I really wanna draw that comparison. To some of the treatment dished out to Bale, especially in the latter stages of his time at Madrid, even while he still remained productive.
I think Rodrigo a little more humble with it. I mean, yeah, he a little frustrated with the lack of game time and wanting to play in his preferred role.
Mhm.
But Bale was saying stuff like
Wales,
Madrid and that order, you know, and
Wales golf Madrid
you know, it was kind of disrespectful
to
to
the
the
club
fans.
and the fans. Yeah,
You know, so I think that's why he was being whistled on top of the bad performances.
I think in terms of like media coverage, I'm like I said again, I'm not really stirring the pot. It's just crazy to me that our attacking player has gone that long outscoring, and yes, people are. I won't say nobody is talking about it because we are talking about it right now, but the narrative around it isn't the same as is dished out to other players. All right, let me draw a more recent example. Ferran Torres, like I said earlier, does get criticized a lot, but he scores a lot.
Yeah, he scores a lot.
He scores a lot of goals. He has regular contributions, but even then, people are still very critical of him in that role. I don't know. It's kind of flying really under the radar.
I think people get
You know?
I think people get enthused with the idea of Rodrigo and not the actual player. I mean, there is a great player there. Maybe if he leaves and goes on a team where he's the main antagonist and he runs things, he would have a better output. But I think that people have this idea that Rodrigo is not that far from being a world class player, whereas Rodrigo is just a good player with great potential if he has the chance to spread his wings, in my opinion. Because he's never scored, let's say, 15 league goals in a season. He has a great Champions League record, but he's never been a consistent scorer of goals. He had a few peak seasons when he played the diamond and he was up front with Vinicius. That was his most productive season. But he's never been a 20 goal in our competition player. So this drought is incredible. And for a player of his quality, he should not be going so long without scoring a goal, despite him not being a regular starter. There's no excuse for that. But at the same time, comparing him to Gareth Bale as well, he hasn't achieved what Gareth Bale may have achieved in football for his expectation to be that high. So him going 31 games without scoring would naturally fly under the radar because he is a under the radar type player.
Mhm.
So he needs to score to get his name out of our mouths for sure to help Mbappe in the forward line.
For sure.
But I think much is being expected of Rodrigo more than he's actually capable of.
Well taken, well taken. We want to move over to England and talk about some Premier League action. They also had weekend matches and more midweek matches that were recently concluded. I didn't catch a lot of these matches. I caught some highlights. So I'm going to really just run through some of the scores, the stats, and so on. And I'll let you guys tip in. I know you guys definitely have your notes as deeper Premier League fans. First game, Chelsea Arsenal 1-1. Chaloba Marino 1-1. Second half goals 1-1. Sharing the points. You take some your side of London. I took some my side of London. What say you, Shab?
It was an even game. Chelsea went down to 10 men with Caicedo's red card early in the first half, and some would have thought that Arsenal would have went on to win the game after that, but Chelsea showed a lot of mettle. They actually took the lead when Chalobah scored, and they were looking very impressive with Reece James dominating in midfield against Declan Rice for major parts of the game, replacing Caicedo in the middle of the park. So it was a very good showing from Chelsea. They have now drawn 3 straight home games against Arsenal. They could take great spirit from this because they showed that on their day, on their best level, they can compete with the league leaders who raved about so far this season. Right? So it's a great performance from them. Not a great follow-up performance in the midweek. But
Yeah, we'll come to talk about now.
this with the main 11 and their best players on show, they put up a valiant effort against the league leaders.
That's good.
Yeah, even after going down to 10 men there, They were really bold. I have to give them credit, Mariska credit. This was the only the second time Arsenal started a game without Gabriel and Saliba at the back. And Mosquera went off early, I think, injured, if I am correct.
That was yesterday.
This was yesterday,
Mhm.
okay. But yeah, they still despite all that, they still seem to be coming away with the points. They are not losing games, and that is commendable. Great credit to them. Great credit to Arteta. Chelsea seemed to disrupt them. They didn't have the as I said, Gabriel and Saliba, so the set piece threat wasn't there, and actually they conceded from a
From a
set
set
piece.
piece.
Set piece. So yeah, credit to Mariska on that game, and then we'll talk about
You
the
talk about the other one. All right. Liverpool picking up what is right now a rare result for them, which is a win. West Ham nil, Liverpool 2, so they picked up that win on the road. I think Isak scored in the second half about the 68th minute there about Gakpo winning it of well, putting it beyond a shadow of a doubt in the 90th. But like we said, then when we look at the weekend matches versus the midweek matches, we'll see back to square one, you'll have to say in the midweek. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. They did beat West Ham. How was the game?
Not much to shout about. West Ham haven't been the best team so far this season in terms of putting up a fight against the big teams. One thing to highlight, that was Isak's first goal for his new team in the Premier League, I should say. But like I said, West Ham don't put up much of a resistance. So the game was 1-0 for a long time as well. So it was basically two poor teams on show currently. And Gakpo ended up unsealing it a late goal, basically in stoppage time. So not much for Liverpool to take away from this game. The only thing, something to note is that Salah was benched and then benched again. So that is something to watch because I mean it should be a bigger story than it is. Talking about flying under the radar. Salah, Mohamed Salah, a new contract, record breaking season last year, benched 2 times in a row.
Well, last time out, if you remember, we spoke about this. We spoke about the where is Salah, and not in a trolling sense, but in a sense that this is, to me, this is just let me cook. This is the legacy of Messi and Ronaldo. The level of consistency that we saw in those players in terms of output, the ways they showed up for their teams, that is not easily replicated. And if you want to be in that conversation and reward in the same way, then these are the criticisms that are gonna come your way, especially when your team is struggling. You can't be out there on the media, in the awards, you understand? You're in the conversation and you're enjoying reaping the benefits are that PR and so on around your performances, but when things are going bad, it's a disappearing act in all sense of the word, both from the field of play and elsewhere in terms of standing up for yourself and your teammates. But we won't rain on the parade, like we said. 3 points, take it. City with a rumble tumble with one of my favorite teams so far this season. Leeds United are entertaining. 3-2. Foden scoring early and late, so he won it out in the end. But we'll get to that. But early in the game, first minute he scored. Leeds hit them in the second half though. I think Guardiola got in off a set piece, so he made it 2-0. City led 2-0 in the game, and then Leeds equalized with 2 second half goals. Our old FIFA name that we would love, DCL. And Lucas scoring his penalty off the rebound. It wasn't pretty, but it got the job done. So Leeds actually equalized in the game, and the game went right down to the wire. 90th minute with Foden winning it. We say up for wrong old school FIFA. Dominic Calvert-Lewin.
Matthias Nunes as a comedy. A big comedy.
Yeah. He gave away the ball and then still came in and assisted that one at Calvert.
And my boy just
No, I really I so Pep. This is kind of going my gaze with Pep, what you want is a right back, not a central midfielder. You convert into a right back. yeah, them thing that just kind of bug me with him. So yes, you have all this money, you go out and then you buy the right people for fit the right spots. I ain't no way Matthias, and this is not the first time he making them kind of mistakes. And it's not like if he's great going forward either. You know, he gives the team some sort of balance, but when you're making mistakes like this, why are you in the team anyway?
Yeah, and that's
a strange bite.
that's the kind of thing. Those are the kind of reasons why City, for all of the good attacking prowess, probably won't have enough to keep up with Arsenal this season for precise reasons. Because just like this game against Leeds on the weekend and the midweek fixture, which we'll get to, they took the lead and then conceded, allowed Leeds back into the game to equalize. In seasons past, City taking an early 2-0 lead on our newly promoted team.
First half.
The game would end up 5-6, 7-0. Right? So we've seen it before. So the fact that City are allowing these teams back into the game, it shows that they have a soft core, a soft belly, and they're easy to get at.
It really was a
It doesn't speak championship the way that they are currently playing.
And finally, Crystal Palace had a home game against Manchester United, but boy, the good boy. Man U with a win, 2-1 away. Mateta scored his penalty in the first half, but Xerxes and then Mount, Xerxes equalizing, Mount winning it out in the second half for Man United. Did you catch that one, Shab?
It was a good comeback from United. Palace would be fatigued because Palace only play one starting 11 every single game, midweek, weekend, it doesn't matter.
They haven't won after a game in Europe for the season.
Exactly. And that game came off of a Europa League fixture for them that they lost as well. So a tough fixture for both teams, and I'd say that United definitely deserve the win in the second half. Mason Mount and the likes coming up trumps to give Amarim's team a nice 3 points.
A nice one. We want to compare those results that we just discussed. Chelsea 1-1 with Arsenal. Liverpool winning 2-0 versus West Ham. City 3-2 at Leeds. And Man U beating Crystal Palace 2-1 with what happened in the midweek fixtures. So let's start with City. Again, City involved in yet another high-profile, high-scoring game against Fulham. They played away this time. It took them scoring 5 goals to eventually get the 3 points over Fulham. Scored 4.
They went up
Is this-
5-1?
Yes,
Yeah.
it was as much as 5-1.
Is this sustainable? This because you just spoke about it, right? Normally Manchester City advancing this far ahead in the game, it's curtains.
Sure.
But this is clearly showing signs of collapse. It was a second half collapse versus Leeds. Gave away a penalty with the game at 2-1. You understand dangerous situations. And then to be 5-1 up and find yourself.
And it's not only the fact that City are letting teams back into the game, it's the quality of opposition or lack thereof that City are letting back into. That was against Leeds on the weekend and then Fulham yesterday. So these aren't the top tier teams in the Premier League who would be necessarily in the running for the Champions League or the Premier League, and City are struggling against these teams. However, some positive notes for them. Erling Haaland ended up getting his 100th Premier League goal, becoming the fastest player to ever do that in 111 games.
Yeah, I saw Alan Shearer posing for a photo.
Correct.
A whole photo.
Right? And also, City have now scored 5 or more goals under Pep Guardiola in 41 games, 356 Premier League games, right? That is as much as Arsene Wenger's Arsenal, who did it in 828 games. So Pep's teams have scored 5 plus goals in 356 games. Wenger's Arsenal team, who he's now tied with, did it in 828 games. The record belongs to Sir Alex Ferguson, whose teams only scored 5 plus goals in 44 games. So Pep is only 3 games behind that record over 500 and some games to spare. Right? So I like his chances to beat that. So,
I like
on
if you're a betting man, take those odds.
on a positive note, they seem to be back to their goal scoring
Farm.
Yeah.
Well, at least, if they can sort out what's going on at the back, perhaps it would bode better for them. A team that has no problem at the back, at least this season, is the leaders. Arsenal winning 2-0 versus Brentford. Clean sheet, job done, remaining at the top of the Premier League and also showing a bit of that defensive steel.
Yeah, they seem to be absolutely invincible right now. That's the third London derby in the last three games, and they had to play Bayern Munich as well in that run. So it's really crazy how formidable they are. Mascara went off injured. Rice went off with a niggle. But they still came out with a victory. It's really hard to bet against Arsenal at the moment. But one thing I noticed is how and I don't want to say weak, but they tend to score less goals away, of course. But they have only scored more than one goal away once for the season, and that's against Burnley in a 2-0 win. When they played Fulham, I think it was a 1-0 victory, and the last couple of games were draws. They have Villa next, so I believe that Man City will be watching keenly to see how that game goes. Villa, on the other hand, have scored 9 out of 16 goals from outside of the box. That's a 56%. That's the most ever. Right? Apart from that, they have won 11 of the last 13 games.
Villa, right?
Villa. And
They win in midweek too, right? They beat Burnley.
And that's 8 of the last 9 in the Premier League. So Villa has been red hot differently and been kind of flying under the radar. And credit to Unai Emery and Ollie Watkins, who scored for the first time in 11 games, and it was a brace yesterday. So Villa are doing pretty well. They knocked off Brighton yesterday after
4-3.
Yeah, after Brighton had gone 3 consecutive home games winning. So yeah, Emery are looking good. But sorry for veering off track, but I just had to mention the upcoming fixture with Arsenal, Aston Villa.
Just on Arsenal first, because I have a little tidbit on Aston Villa as well. That performance from Arsenal is one of the reasons why I think they're going to be champions, because that's a game where, like you mentioned, no Gabriel, no Saliba, Saka didn't start, right? Eze was on the bench as well.
Clean sheet.
They basically showing their depth, right? That's a game where the likes of Madueke, Ben White, Martinelli, Hincapié, all of those players who wouldn't be considered regular members of the starting 11 came in and performed to, level enough to beat Brentford.
And playing basically the second hottest striker in the league.
Correct, right? So I'd say that Arsenal are looking very well. They are undefeated at home so far this season as well. Scoring 29.
Real clean sheet to that.
Scoring 29 and only conceding 3. Right? So that's 8 clean sheets out of 11 games at home so far this season. But the next game against Villa is going to be a big test. Shout out to Unai Emery, who is now also the coach with the most wins in Aston Villa history.
That's crazy.
Already?
They are going to have a tough
Big
test.
up Unai.
Keep in mind that he's a former Arsenal coach. And
good evening to you.
They're only a few points behind Arsenal now in the race. So it's going to be a very interesting game at Villa Park this week.
A nice little running. And we said that Liverpool wins were scarce. Couldn't beat Sunderland. 1-1 at Anfield.
Big up Sunderland. We go talk about Liverpool.
Okay.
But you have a big up Sunderland.
All right.
The squad that they put together, the likes of Xhaka, Sadiki, Lefebvre, Talbi, Mukiele, these are like Europa League players. and these guys came into the Premier League from the League One and poached these guys.
Mm-hmm.
These guys could have gone to Spurs or the Villas or the Newcastles of the world, and they ended up at Sunderland. So I have to big up the manager, the board, or whoever who has been doing the recruitment, and also the coach who put us putting together a really proper team on the day, every day. Liverpool, they look notably more balanced and sharper without Salah. To be honest, what got his force.
The shot was going wide.
Yeah, it says Mukiele own goal.
Haaland was trying to find the positive. Yeah, but I think they look considerably more balanced and sharper with Salah on the bench, but that doesn't bring you goals.
Boy, you get fired. I'm sorry, I'm being dramatic.
It doesn't bring you goals. There was some interesting notes I had though. Sunderland played 72 long passes against Liverpool, and I think that was the 5th most for the season. And anytime a team hit the 70 mark for long passes, 4 out of the 5 times, only one game, Liverpool have won out of the 5 games.
Okay.
Right? It seemed like that's the plan against Liverpool actually, because no one have conceded more long passes than Liverpool in the Prem. So teams are using this as a tactic, and you see a lot of second balls being won, especially, which is weird because Van Dijk was this imperial figure in the air, and you thought that anything comes there, it would be out of there in no time. But it seems like Konate tends to have this lack of concentration from time to time, and Van Dijk could never get his shape right, and they always tend to, end up on either some second balls, counter-attack or something. So, yeah, I noticed teams have been targeting them in that area, and Klopp himself says he has no answer for it.
Shout out to Sunderland as well, who are as high as 6th in the Premier League currently. Only 10 points off the top of the table right now. Credit to Brice Lefebvre and the newly promoted Sunderland team. Like I said, they're currently 6th. Liverpool, meanwhile, are currently in 9th, 11 points behind the league leaders in Arsenal. It's fair to say that their title reign would only last for one season. 21 goals conceded and 21 goals scored with a 0 goal difference says it all for Liverpool. That's not a good start at all, right? Another uninspiring performance at Anfield, no less, right? Another game where Salah was on the bench.
Somebody go in jail.
Watts was involved in a goal at least, for the first, so far this season, that's his first Premier League goal involvement for one of Liverpool's most expensive signings. So it's just a sign to show that they're all over the place at the moment, right? They're gonna have to have a big Champions League run this season to consider their season successful because their league form is horrible.
Coach, you are ice pack. Your seat hot. That's all I could tell you. Your seat hot. It's hot.
I think Sunderland.
I don't think there's much other places to shop around right now. So maybe perhaps they're gonna stick it out.
I think I saw Saturday Sunderland reached the amount of points they had in the last
Premier League season. Yeah. Happy loving Sunderland right now. A team that I am loving right now, particularly because they put belt to ass on a team that, tried to take my chain week before or last week. Don't even remember anymore. Leeds 3-1 Chelsea. Boo boo, God love you. I'm joking.
That was a reality check for Chelsea. It really made them come back down to earth.
Yeah.
Right?
Get off that Barcelona high.
They were soundly beaten, right? They were beaten by the better team away at Ellen Road. They made 5 changes from the team that drew against Arsenal a few days before. And the players who came in clearly did not meet up to the level of the players who they replaced, right? Caicedo obviously was missing due to his red card as well, and it was shown in the middle of the park where Andre Santos and Enzo Fernandez could not match those players from Leeds' intensity, right? And despite outshooting Leeds 17-14, they also barely threatened, right? Cole Palmer also returned, so that's a positive for them. But even his return could not help them as he squandered a chance as he came on as well. So shout out to Leeds. Chelsea now dropped to 4th and they are now 9 points behind Arsenal and travel to Bournemouth on the weekend, which will be a tough game for them.
Big up this year.
Yeah, big up please them and pack out the midfield and just run road. They didn't allow. They basically suffocated the technical superior side of Chelsea. You always notice when Caicedo messing out of the side. Sure. As I said in the last episode, Andre Santos still kind of out of his depth.
Yeah, he's wrong.
The guy who scored for them, Bijol, he bullied the lap into a 61-minute substitution. He is quite the unit, very tall. I think he's from Slovenia. And yeah, he looks like just one to watch really and truly. It was a really good game from Leeds, but I think that Malo Gusto and Tosin other bio when Chelsea looked like they were getting back into the game, that was 2-1.
Yeah. They dropped sleep.
You saw even before Gusto passed the ball to Tosin that he had no clue what he was going to do next. Right? Because Enzo passed it back to him so fast and he was like, oh boy, no, I'm on the byline, pressure. You know?
These were pressing.
Sanchez looked like he was more angry with Gusto than he was with the guy who actually made the mistake. Yeah, so these are the little things that you need to clean up in order to be championship contenders, to be winners of the title. You need to be immaculate, impeccable.
Considering what we just spoke about, how Liverpool are poor and the kind of intensity and showing it's put in against Chelsea, Leeds versus Liverpool, a fixture coming up on the weekend at Ellen Road, and based on what we've seen so far, there's only one result that's going to happen there, and it's shocking to say that Leeds are actually like favorites, in that game.
But they are.
They literally are.
All right, and that was the action across the Premier League for the weekend and the midweek fixtures. I didn't mention, but we had a couple of draws in there as well. Newcastle and Tottenham, 2 goals up each. Man United and West Ham.
Spurs, nah. I think we should let Spurs give it. I think we should let Spurs give it. Because Spurs lose 3 games in 6 days before that draw to Newcastle. Thomas Frank have to fix up before them and send you home too.
True.
It's true.
No, for real. It looked promising at the start of the season, but now it seems like he doesn't know how to attack. And then what I notice is there's a lack of creativity. Xavi Simons, Kudos, none of these guys can give you what James Maddison would give you, right? So I think, I'm not too sure how long Maddison would be out for, but I think that's something that they need to try to sort out in the transfer window.
I agree. Spurs are really poor, right? They scored 2 goals from an XG of less than 1, right? That was also their only 2 shots on target. That's crazy, bro. They went off 2-0 and they never looked like coming back into the game. Right? No, it was 1-0, then they equalized and then Gordon scored a penalty. and then they equalized with an overhead kick from Romero, who scored a brace. So, as you said, I don't think we should have let Spurs off of the hook because they are a traditional big team in England, at least, right? And they are underperforming.
Big time.
Thomas Frank came in with a lot of expectations. They made a few signings. I'd say that a lot of them were underwhelming signings. To be fair, a lot of mismatching profiles and still lacking quality in wide areas, especially and up front. So they shouldn't be let off the hook because they are the current Europa League champions and they should be doing better.
Correct.
Right? They have Brentford next, which is Thomas Frank's former team, and it would be interesting to see how that game pans out.
All right. So a lot of action.
Just before we move on to the
the
man of the match segment and that kind of thing, I just want to shout out to Flamengo, who won the Copa Libertadores, beating Palmeiras 1-0 thanks to a Danilo goal. Danilo, who is a former Real Madrid, Man City, and Juventus right back. Flamengo, who is coached by former Atletico Madrid left back Felipe Luis, has now won their 4th Copa Libertadores, which is the equivalent to the Champions League in Europe. That is the most by a Brazilian team, and Brazil now equals Argentina as the nation with most titles, over 25 each. No other country in that region has more than 8. So shout out to Flamengo and Felipe Luis and former Madridista.
Big up yourself. Not my favorite defender to face, but big up yourself, Felipe Luis.
I don't know, but trying to check the West Indies score, and I don't know why you're seeing Hope and Chase batting.
No, so man. We had a good start in this day in history. We had Soviv and Sir Clive. Don't reduce the thing now, no man. Man, let's get into some man of the match shouts. Solid week also of action in and around European football, but like you just heard Dappy mention, we're keeping our ears and eyes open for other sports as well. So across any sport, any league, any player, your man of the match shout. I go start because mine bias again. Right? Rafinha. If them ain't want big you up, I go big you up. If them ain't want big you up like how France football been big up Kaka on this day in history in 2007, Prime go big you up on GSCP. You overs. We 5th place ago. It ain't have 4 man better than you, me buddy. Don't let it trick you. 4 man ain't better than you. Not for the last calendar year or last season they were gone in. Rafinha back from injury. Barcelona look like a completely different team. Winning games we would lose. I'm positive. The Atletico game, we're not winning the game with Rafinha. We're not. I'd also argue the Alaves game that could be a draw thing because what you going on? You understand? Lewandowski, don't feel forget you we see, but he's a veteran, so nobody ain't go. We gonna talk too much about us. But Rafinha, big up yourself. He's my man of the match because you have shown how important you are to your team, to your club, and the system that your coach wants to play. How effective you are, how disciplined and professional you are, and the output is great. You know, job well done. Big up yourself.
Okay, so my man of the match is Joe Root. This is England's greatest ever cricketer, greatest ever batsman, I should say. He scored his 4th century in Australia. In after 12 years since debuting in Australia in 2013 as a 22-year-old, as also his 40th Test century. Right, he will more than likely end up being the highest run scorer in Test history. He currently has at 13,668 and is unbeaten on 135 before play resumes shortly. So shout out to Joe Root, who is currently unbeaten on 135. Great player.
Well, like, I even pick anybody out of West Indies, I even say me going to Alright. My man of the match is Jamal Murray 52 points in a victory against the Indiana Pacers last night. The boy went off for 23 in the first half. I think he had 5 bombs from behind the arc. This season, he really hasn't had this kind of output. I don't think he's had much 30-point games. But say he's averaging about 17 to 18 points per game. So, yeah, big up Jamal Murray. Jokic have been basically carrying the load for the majority of the season. So it's good to see him coming out with this kind of output.
Yeah. All right. Good shouts. We got 3 different sports, 3 different man of the matches, 3 excellent players. Remember, we bring you the best players, the best speeds, the best sports, the best takes right here on GSCP. I want to introduce another new segment. I think outside of the pilot, we haven't done something like this before, and it is top 5. This one is strictly football related. However, right now these are the major games that I played. So I want to give you the top 5 across European football right now. This is something similar, not necessarily like a power ranking, but more so what we see in terms of who is playing best football right now. I want to start off with the team that we think is in the driver's seat formally. And again, big up to Shaba for highlighting this team from very early on in the season. We are talking about Arteta and his solid team. Solid boy. Arsenal, yeah. Y'all doing that thing again.
Think it would be a unanimous decision. The top of the Premier League, top of the Champions League, unbeaten in the Champions League.
17 games unbeaten.
Clean sheet now as stars. Depth, strength in depth. I don't think there's much discussion that Arsenal are the best team in Europe so far this season. And they belong at the top 5. Belong number 1 at the top 5. For sure.
Don't do it, innit? That's very funny.
We will.
I don't want to be a detractor, I don't want to be a detractor. I do not want. This is not hatred or anything. This is PTSD coming up. Like I said, Arsenal is a team that I love to watch. I love to watch them play football since the Arsene Wenger era. But
as Stephen has said, this is fluid. This is what we're seeing currently. So this is what we're.
This is what we're seeing. This is what we're seeing. Go through Arsenal, a team that perhaps right now I don't think anybody would be rushing to play, and it took the team that we're seeing is in the top spot to beat them comprehensively, really. And that is Harry Kane and the rest of the Bavarians in Bayern Munich.
Yeah, apart from the Arsenal game, they have looked like a well-oiled machine. Almost unstoppable with the way how they play. Harry Kane has been unplayable. And yeah, the likes of Michael Olise and Nabry. Luis Diaz, yeah. Big up company and Bayern Munich.
Yeah, they're doing well.
Yeah, not much to add. I'd say that they are the clear second best team. Not necessarily clear because them and the next team we're about to speak about have a case for being the second best. But they're definitely there, and I think the top 3 is well established.
Yeah.
Based on what we've seen so far this season.
What we also want to say is that our top 3, we think they're closer and there's some space between them and the rest of the pack. And even still, I would argue that there's a slight gap between Arsenal and the other teams that we are talking about. So that's Arsenal, Bayern. In third position, we have Paris Saint-Germain. UCL champions, still looking a formidable force. Lots of fluidity in their attack. Lots of options in the team. Luis Enrique has a clearly defined system. And like we said, and like was evidenced last year, this is a team. Lots of different options, lots of different pathways for them to hit you. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I still believe that Paris probably has arguably the best midfield in the world. With Vitinha, João Neves, and Fabian Ruiz, I think they complement each other well. One day is Vitinha going off a hat trick, another day is João Neves going off, and then Fabio and Ruiz comes up with the goal, and they all seem to do their work pretty well. So yeah, a nice little core they have there.
Yeah, well, the machine, well coached, have championship experience now. They probably gonna look to peak later in the season rather than now, where the Champions League knockout would start and the important stretch. So what we're seeing right now definitely won't be the final version of Paris Saint-Germain, but they're definitely up there based on their pedigree.
So far. Right. Arsenal, little space. Bayern, PSG, some space. Hot take. Though look for we call none of the top two in Spain in this top five here. In our humble opinion here at GSCP, those two teams have been far too inconsistent to be considered at the very top right now in European football. So don't come ask me where Madrid and where Barcelona. The next two teams that we want to put in both come from the Serie A and they both share a stadium. We're talking about the two Milans, AC Milan on form in the Serie A, top of the Serie A, and Inter Milan, particularly, well, not so high up as AC, but still third in the Serie A, and I think third as well in the Champions League ranking, showing a bit a steal and showing that Serie A still has a lot of talent, still has a lot of teams that would be tough to play against if you do meet them. I mean, we found that out in the semi-finals of the competition last year.
Yeah, just shout out to AC Milan who currently top in the Serie A. Only lost one game so far this season and looking impressive. So I definitely won't say that if AC Milan or Inter Milan are to meet Barca or Real Madrid today or tomorrow that they necessarily come out victorious. But based on the consistency that both of those teams have displayed so far compared to the big two in Spain so far, I'd say that those two teams have a stronger case
On
for
merit
being
in the
in the
top
top
five.
five teams currently as we record. Right, Barca maybe would have a stronger case than Real for sure. Maybe if they didn't lose that game against
That
Chelsea,
Chelsea
in the
result.
mix, because since the Clasico they have hit stride, let's say in the league, but that result against Chelsea,
That's only that.
the result and performance against Chelsea.
Yeah, we've won again. The only big team we beat this season is Atletico Madrid. We lost against Real Madrid. We lost against PSG. We lost against Chelsea. I think the only other team you could maybe put Newcastle in there, but you understand. So not necessarily up there. And that is our top five. Arsenal, Bayern, PSG, AC Milan, and Inter Milan. Couple honorable mentions as well. Big up Aston Villa, Jet. Big up Aston Villa.
No, we don't talk
No,
about them.
I see it.
We don't talk about it. Yeah, man, for sure. Third in the Premier League, third in the Europa League. Don't mention a good bit of things before. 11 wins in 13, 8 in the last 9. The one thing that I don't think will be sustainable is the amount of goals again from outside of the box they need to, see how much more creative they can be and, get Watkins back in form. But yeah, they're doing really good right now and hopefully they could continue in the vein.
And two more honorable mentions, I think they both coming from France. We'll start about the French league, but only in the context mostly of PSG sometimes. So Shaba wants to highlight
For
French
sure,
teams.
for sure. Marseille, despite being in third, I think they play some of the best football across Europe, and with a deadly attack, the likes of Aubameyang and Greenwood up front. They're currently third in League One, and the league leaders in France, surprisingly, are Lens. Right, they currently lead the French league above Paris Saint-Germain and Marseille, who I just highlighted. So they have to be an honorable mention just for being top of the league on merit.
All right. And those are our shouts. Those are our picks. I tell you, say a pick. Benzema. We gonna stop messing around. This wraps up yet another episode here at GSCP. Remember to like, comment, share, subscribe. Let's get this thing moving. We bring you the best teams, the best takes, the best sports, the best leagues, the best players all here in one place. Remember, it's one GSCP. Click the link down below. Everybody, say it with me.
Global